How to stand out in a competitive market. We'll get into that shortly, but first, this episode is brought to you by Waymo. Just imagine sitting where you're at right now, and you can pick up your phone and call up a Jaguar SUV with no driver to come pick you up and take you wherever you want. That would be freaking badass, wouldn't it? It would, and I cannot wait to see Waymos all over the United States. It's going to be awesome, and I love the company, and I know it's going to scale. I'm such a huge fan of it. And you're like, well, I like driving. I don't trust self-driving cars. Okay, well, how about ChatGPT? Can you write an article better than ChatGPT? Probably not. Well, you probably can't drive better than Waymo either, because they've got one job, and they do it better than you. Okay, so, yeah, Waymo. Get with them, invest in them, look into them. They're an awesome company. I'm a huge fan. Okay, and then also, this episode is brought to you by Rakuten. Do you spend money online? Do you shop online? If you do, you probably only use Amazon. Okay, well, instead of doing that, go to Rakuten as opposed to going to Amazon. Okay, when you go to Rakuten, they'll show you offers from other companies, distributors, say Nike, say Adidas, say Reebok, other companies like this, and they help them increase their online revenue, and they do that while saving people like you and me tons of money. You know, so it's an awesome company. They give back to the community. They're an awesome company, and I'm a huge fan of those guys. You know, so definitely get in the habit of going to Rakuten before you spend money online. Okay. Okay. So what was the question? How to stand out in a competitive market? Okay, there's tons of ways to stand out in a competitive market. You know. The best way to stand out in a competitive market is probably not to enter into a competitive market. But, you know, sometimes that's not always possible, you know. Sometimes you enter into competitive markets because you're a competitive person, you know. But it is better to enter a market where there's absolutely zero competition, where you're doing something that nobody else is doing, you know. Like when Tesla first took off, no one else was doing electric vehicles, or like, obviously there's Blue Origin and SpaceX, but, you know, those are the only people competing in the space industry, you know. So like, if you can get into an industry where you don't have any competition, like that is such a huge win. But anyways, so we'll get back to, okay, so what if you are in an industry and there's tons of competition? How do you stand out? There's tons of ways to stand out still, okay? You can stand out being the lowest price. You can stand out being the highest priced. But the best way to stand out is just being the best overall company, okay? And you can do that at either price point, but the thing to do is to care about your clients and genuinely help them, okay? When you do this, it establishes and builds good relationships, okay? And I know Seth Godin talks about it in his book, I think it's The Dip. He says, you don't want to attempt something if you don't think you could be the best in the world at it, okay? And I think that's pretty awesome advice. So if you're going into a competitive market, okay, so we'll take like when I was going into the solar industry, my goal was to take over the entire solar market in the United States, make it all campaign energy solutions. You can even talk to Blue Sun, or my Chinese manufacturing company. I told them I didn't want them selling to any other U.S. solar company. I wanted them to be I wanted like them to only sell to me. Like that's the type of competitor I am, you know? And I think that's like, you know, being associated with people like that's like an awesome thing, you know, because like it creates energy and it allows you to build momentum. But the thing is you have to be able to not just try to be the best, you know, you got to be the best, you know? And anyone can talk about it, but it's about being about it, not just talking about it, you know? It's about executing, you know? But anyway, so like to be the best, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be better than all of your competitors. And it's so easy to do, you know? So you need to study your competitors, see what they're doing, and just identify places where they're weak and where you can beat them every single time. You know, it's a game of psychology, but it's a game. You know, it's a game that you can win, but it takes hard work. So, anyways, so I guess I was going to talk more about commercial sales today, But before I get into that, I guess I will talk a little bit about Tesla. Since we're on the solar topic, if you're going to go solar anytime soon, I highly recommend going solar with Tesla's solar shingles. Rather than putting big ass solar panels on your roof, you can actually put Tesla solar shingles on your roof. And that's a company, no one else is doing that. No one else is manufacturing solar shingles. They're the only ones. They have no competition. And I feel like that's such a fucking badass market. So if you're considering going solar and taking advantage of the 30% tax credit, look into Tesla's solar shingles, 100%. You know, they're awesome. So yeah, and then I guess also we're going to give a shout out to Alibaba. Okay, if you're an entrepreneur and you want to increase profits, the best way to do that is to minimize expenses, and the best way to do that is to shop or buy with Alibaba. You know, and it's obviously like what it is it's a platform where you can create a network of people, all like business people all over the world, you know, and you can get quotes from every manufacturers in the world, and you can find the best prices in the world, you know, but obviously you need to do your research. But it is such a great app company for helping entrepreneurs establish international connections. It is also awesome for establishing ways to save money, you know, minimize expenses, you know, whether you're spending, you know, a ton of money on paper every month rather than spending money on paper every month. You could just look at what you did last year in paper, make one international order for the year and save thousands of dollars annually, like on your paper expense. So look into Alibaba. Like it's not just for like solo or entrepreneurs, like it's for business owners that are already in business and have been established in business, you know? So, okay, so I guess we'll move into commercial sales. Okay, so one thing I would never recommend in commercial sales is I wouldn't recommend hitting the phones from 8 to 9 unless you have a scheduled call, okay? I feel like 8 to 9, that is the time to send emails. That is the time to go over who you need to call that day, go over your meetings, you know, study your CRM, send emails. But, you know, last thing people want in the first thing in the morning is a call from fucking salesman, you know, like when they're getting to work, trying to get all their shit in order. Like that's not what they're trying to, you know, and that just throws them off, and then they don't want anything to do with you, you know. So play the game well, you know. And then obviously early morning, you're probably presenting proposals or you're hitting the phones. So yeah, and then I'll tell you one thing also, like, okay, one of the, you know, golden hours, 8 to 5, you know, it's a game. So it's a grind, 8 to 5, you know, whistle blows, you know. And from 12 to 1, while everybody is at lunch, I used to always do a power hour on the phones, whether I was in my car or I was at the office. And I would probably schedule 10 appointments a week from 12 to 1 hitting the phones. I don't know why, but it just worked out that way. 12 to 1, I guess it's because like there's not many people at the office or something, but when you get people on the phone, but it is a powerful hour to hit the phones. And I also mentioned 4 to 5. If you can hit a power hour 4 to 5, that is an extremely powerful hour of the day because everyone's in a great mood, they're watching the clock, and they're just easy, you know? So 4 to 5, if you can hit a power hour every day, like that is huge, you know? I know a lot of times you'll be presenting at 4 to 5, but if you can, power hour 4 to 5, okay? And then I'd spend, you know, working on quotes and updating my CRM, you know, after the 5 o'clock whistle blows. You know, I know I've heard of other really good salespeople that have hit the phone, like hit the phones like after 5 o'clock, but that's not something I have experience doing because I'd always hit the phones until 5, and then after 5, that would be when I started working on proposals and doing updates to my CRM and things like that. So those are just a few tips I've got on commercial sales. Okay, I guess another thing I can do is a lot of times when you get people on the phone, it's difficult setting appointments. I know people work on scripts. You know, one thing that I used to do is say, my name is Adam. I'm with Southeast Marketing. I was hoping I could just come by, drop off a business card, and introduce myself. And they'd be like, and I'd be like, well, yeah, you know, it'll only take a second. You know, I just want to introduce myself. And then they're like, okay. And then they're expecting you. Then when you get there, then you can introduce yourself, spit a little game, and they're like, okay, you know, we like this guy. But it's like getting your foot in the door and having them expecting you to be there. Okay, but we'll get into more of this later. But remember that I love you and that you can be what you will to be.